So hey, this is Synpax with the new guys, and I join you today with two of our members, Cowboy and Shoy. We're going to talk a little bit about the Tier 6 Royal Navy destroyer, the Icarus. We're going to run through some games here, and at the beginning you're seeing a game where the destroyer is doing a little bit of the defensive role that Wargaming says that it's responsible for. So it's a standard battle, and by itself, kind of holding off one flank with 6 or 7 ships incoming. I had some fun with the ship. It's got some strengths, but they don't really show up on paper. It's got some very glaring weaknesses, and I just want to, if Cowboy and Shoy want to say hello, bring them to the conversation here.
Good morning.
That's Shoy, and Cowboy, don't be shy.
I think you know us better than that. We're not very shy.
Yeah, I do. Now, my experience with this ship is that it's kind of good at being a nuisance and kind of good at doing traditional destroyer roles, primarily because of its low concealment, I think the lowest in its class. But the guns are pretty meager. They're essentially Gallant guns, and the shell velocity is, I think, also about the slowest for the class. It is the slowest for the class. Even Farragut guns have a higher velocity, so hitting targets, especially those at range, is difficult. And you can see here in the video, I'm just sort of holding the 1-2 line here, using the smoke, but a little bit like the ship's namesake, it's very easy to get a little too close to the sun. And your smokes disappear very quickly. They last about 40 seconds, and after that you've got to again immediately be outside, and it's a very short period that you've got to use that smoke. Nothing like American or Russian smoke or even Pan Asian. You've got to use it and go. So I had some fun with the ship. What was your experience with it in it, Cowboy?
You know, I was a little unsure at the beginning, but overall I think all Tier 6 destroyers are very similar. This one has a couple of differences, like the smoke screen you mentioned, but I like the short duration. I'm not the kind that is going to sit in one place for 2 minutes. I'm always moving. And so being able to use, 7 smoke screens of short duration to disengage and reset, I think is an advantage for me over having, 4 smoke screens that might last a minute and a half each.
Yeah, there's nothing that draws enemy torpedoes more than a cloud of smoke, and obviously somebody spending too much time camping it. The other thing though that I noticed, that again, if you look at the ship on paper, it doesn't show up as easily, is the acceleration. I mean, this thing, it doesn't have speed boost, but it takes off like a maniac. So doing this, this thing where you're holding a position either behind a mountain, behind cover, or in your own smoke, and then immediately taking off again, it's really quite fun. And also, like the Minotaur, it doesn't really lose very much speed in the turns, which is, I think, a trait for the line as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. The big advantages I see is I like the multiple smoke screens of short duration, but it has a really good turning radius also.
Yep.
And the single fire torpedoes to me is probably the most powerful aspect of it.
Really? Now, I played about 20 games with it. I really didn't find myself too many opportunities, but explain why you think that makes the ship so strong.
Well, because the torpedoes are such short range, you don't always get a lot of opportunities to use them. But when you do get a chance to use them, a lot of times it'll be a battleship or maybe even a cruiser coming around a mountain somewhere, and either they don't know you there or they're just trying to come kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you use the single fire torpedoes in those scenarios, especially with 2 sets of 5, you can do some trickery. You can launch 3, wait 3 seconds, launch the other 2, and still hold 5 in reserve for them when they come around.
Yep. Well, the video we're looking at now is a good example of the Icarus doing traditional destroyer duties, and it does these things, I say, fairly well because of its maneuverability, its ability to drop smokes, and its Just a really good, relatively good detection, best detection in class, and also the hydro, because a lot of times when the destroyer's out in front, you're doing screening for your teammates, and once you put your smoke up, that sometimes that it just goes away. So the ability to pop your hydro or just get an additional advantage, because once you spot the torps, everybody else on your team sees them. So it's got a lot of utility that way. And you can see I'm playing very aggressively, taking a lot of damage. This is one of the things about the ship, though. You definitely don't want to be getting shot at in it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that goes with any destroyer, especially around tier 6.
Yep.
A lot of games you're going to get into is going to have tier 8 cruisers. And
Yeah.
maybe even 2 destroyers as you're facing against. So.
But that speed going away is going to save you every time. And the maneuverability of that speed when you do get engagements.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very well played as a mobile engagement destroyer. Where each engagement is short duration.
Yeah, like right now he's
seconds.
going behind the island hitting this DD. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. And lots of short 20-second engagements is where this destroyer really excels. Yeah,
and I mean they call it a defensive destroyer, but it's really because of not necessarily because of speed, but it's a maneuverability, detection, and ability to disengage at its own choice. You really have a lot of opportunities to decide where you're going to go and what you're going to go. It's an excellent capping DD, but one thing I did notice about this is not quite as bad as the Russian ships, but the turret traverse is pretty abysmal. What did you do to overcome that, Cowboy?
Well, I used one of the Dunkirk commanders with Expert Marksman, and it really brought it down really close to even like a stock Farragut. Like if you don't do anything to boost the Farragut's turret traverse, you can get the Icarus really close to it, within about 2 seconds on a 180-degree traverse.
Yep, on my first build, I didn't use the captain skill, but I found I had to use the upgrade module to increase the turret traverse. It's a little disappointing because you definitely can easily outturn your guns, but maybe that's not just a fact, not really a factor so much of the turret traverse, but by how quickly it can spin.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can steer the guns on target pretty well. Yeah. But, I don't think you could play it well with just the stock turret traverse. I think you'd struggle. I think everybody would.
Yeah. On the Jarvis, which is one step above this, I redid my cap and I did put Expert Marksman on it, and then I didn't need to use the module anymore. But it does need something. So that is that's definitely a drawback. So let's talk captain build. Now it's a destroyer, so you're going to run the usual stuff. Whether you're there's a division. Some people are priority target. Some people are preventive maintenance. I'm a PT guy. But beyond that, obviously Last Stand, Adrenaline Rush. Questions about what tier 3 or 3-point skill you need, but beyond that, definitely concealment. What direction do you take, Cowboy?
I actually have kind of a strange build on mine. I have both priority target and preventive maintenance.
Uh-huh.
And then I have Last Stand, Expert Marksman, and Jack of all trades. I like the extra cooldown boost on the smoke screen. Gives me less time that I can't use it, so I can fire off 4 smoke screens in a row, kind of back to back, and only be out of the smoke about 20 seconds each time.
Now remind me again what tier 3 skill you took on this?
Superintendent, of course, so I can have 7 smoke screens instead of 6.
Really?
Yeah,
That's worth 3 points. That one more. Sorry, go ahead.
I think so, but I know you and I play significantly differently. A lot of people might opt for Demolition Expert, which I think is very valid also.
Yeah.
But then on tier 4, I went Concealment Expert and Radio Location.
I think I may have gone BFT, and I think Demolition Expert. And I'm pretty sure I did take Jack of all trades, but I didn't take Preventive Maintenance, so I guess that's where it balanced out. I tried playing around with IFHE because you get up tiered a lot, and if you want to try to farm battleships, you're not going to do too much damage. But I ended up taking it off because, and even for the tier 7, wasn't really worth it. Wasn't worth the fire cost.
Yeah,
at the
I
higher
don't think
tiers,
so
you may
either.
want to. It may be a different consideration at 8, 9, and 10. Maybe a different discussion, because. But the thing is, superstructure. Everybody's superstructure, no problem. But once that gets saturated, then you're just reduced to solely praying for fires.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why the IFHE probably isn't as valuable on these with their 120 millimeter guns. I don't think it puts you over any significant threshold by adding it on that helps you do damage consistently to any ship.
That's true.
I think the fires are more important at that point.
And it is worth noting that, this on paper, this ship doesn't have a whole lot of strengths, but the one strength it does have is, compared to its class, is fire chance. So I think it's tied with one of the other ships for highest fire chance, especially when you throw a couple flags on there. You're going to be setting a lot of fires and getting a lot of that dot damage.
Yeah, and like I said, there's different play styles. Lots of people play differently. I don't tend to fire from smoke that often. I use the smoke more as a tool to reposition or to surprise somebody. And so to me, the radio location is important because I'm almost always engaging destroyers. And then, to other people, the demolition expert's going to be more important.
Yeah, I find that because I run the radio on a lot of ships, especially Yu Yang. But then because I've got Hydro, I don't feel quite as compelled, because one of the reasons for radio is to know where the DDs are, to in part to anticipate the direction of torpedoes.
Yeah, and the Hydro's short range. It's very situational.
This in the video is one of the cases where we actually did Hydra detect each other just to be able to close it, but it doesn't work at all like the Germans. Nowhere near the range.
No, I agree. It's very situational, but there's going to be times it's going to be useful for finding a ship, and there's going to be times, where you're screening torpedoes. So it's a very valuable tool.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I don't. I don't have superintendent. I use survivability expert. I like vigilance to spot the torps for the team, and I like BFT as well.
I think that on when we get to the higher tiers, where there's more of a payoff to survivability expert, I'll probably give it another look and probably do a rebuild. There's this line changes as you get higher tiers, because your AP starts to get U.S. Navy. Des Moines AP penetration angles, and they really evolve. They grow up a lot, other than that one consistent trait of no speed boost, good acceleration, single fire torpedoes. I think that they move. I could be wrong because I haven't played them. I'm not sure I don't know. I think that either of you guys have gotten your hands on the 9s or 10s, but I think it becomes much more of a gunboat than a torpedo boat, or the guns become a lot stronger. So
I think it improves, but I'll let you finish up.
Yeah. So we can keep talking because we can fix this in edit. But Shoy, you have the Icarus, but you don't have this ship yet. Are you, based on what you've seen and heard, are you excited to play? You excited to get your Icarus?
Yeah, as a DD main, any new DD is always fun, but I'm not sold on the Icarus yet. Or the Acosta yet. I've only played it a handful of times. Watching that video definitely just helps me how to play it more. I usually run with the Yu Yang without radar, and I do not sit and smoke and farm damage. That's not what in my opinion, that's not what a DD's job is. It's supposed to be spotting and killing other DDs. So this is a unique play style, and I'm looking forward to diving into it.
Yeah, well, they've sold this as a defensive DD, but one thing I did notice, these are some the videos, the clips I showed are from pretty good games. You didn't see the game where I did like 8,000 damage and didn't land any torpedoes. But something I know I've discussed with Cowboys, that this is not a ship where you should expect to get massive damage numbers. Like, for example, some of the Japanese destroyers were just looking for massive torpedo hits.
No, I agree. The torpedoes hit well. I think they do really good damage. They're probably, I don't have numbers off the top of my head, but I bet they're within the top 2 or 3 for the tier for damage numbers.
That's true.
But the short range, I think, of the torpedoes is what makes it a defensive DD. You almost only can hit things that are approaching you, or things that are stationary in smoke, or somebody pushing around an island into, or you pushing into them.
Yeah, your stealth torp range is 1 kilometer greater than your detection, and it's even less for the Jarvis if I have my build correct.
At the end of that video, you had that battleship coming down, breathing down, and the game ended. You shot one side, and then you flipped around and shot the other full side. What I would have done is shot 3 of those and saved 2 for him to be really on top. You can get a flooding because he might have hit in the first set, and then that's what the beauty is, having those extra 1-2 single fire torpedoes.
Yeah. Again, it's not something I take advantage of that much. In that case, though, I saw the clock was running out, and I was just trying to get what I could before the game ended, because it was unfortunately one of those steamrolls. It's great to win, but you want it to be a better game. But yeah, that's sort of the nice thing, because I mean, depending on how you launch them, you have essentially 10 silos, right, rather than 2 or 3 that you traditionally have on a destroyer. So you can 2 at a time. Obviously the rack doesn't reload until all 5 are gone, but it's a lot harder to dodge them if you do switch over to single. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. I hope you all enjoyed this video. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are the New Guys, a clan in North America. If you're just enjoying, by all means connect with us on Discord. We have a development clan called TNGD, as in development. So please look us up, hop on our Discord. Even if you're already in a clan, we have allied tags on our Discord, so you're more than welcome to visit. And we hope to see you in game. Thanks.